Well, let's discuss this tragic story. Journalist and political analyst Robert Elakish joins me from the UK via Zoom. Thank you very much for joining us, Robert, at this point. Now, when you first heard the story about the death of Akleh, what came to mind?
Well, Shireen is a journalist that, for anyone who has been working in Palestine and covering it, every one of us is familiar with her and her work. And for family members of mine, Palestinian family members of mine, she's someone that they grew up watching. So she is somebody that was a symbol of knowledge and truth inside Palestine, reporting on what was going on in the occupied territories. And so she wasn't just a regular journalist for Palestinians. I mean, there's been so many journalists who have been killed over the years in the Gaza Strip and in the West Bank and elsewhere. But with Shireen, her being such an important figure inside Palestine, that we've seen people rally behind today as well at her funeral, which was attacked by Israeli forces. She has been immortalized as a symbol of the Palestinian struggle and of journalism, and someone that fought for press freedom all over the world. And many people are now calling for accountability due to this murder.
Wow. So what does this say about attacks on journalists covering, especially those covering war-torn areas? We see a lot of journalists are covering the Russia-Ukraine war, and of course they are in the line of duty as it is. So what does this say about attacks on journalists covering war-torn areas?
Well, this in of itself, if it's not punished, this basically gives not only the Israelis, but other regimes as well in the region and throughout the world a free pass to execute journalists when they wish, if this is not punished. The Israelis have basically been given a carte blanche that they can do whatever they like in these situations because of the fact that the United States, their number one ally, will not punish them properly, will not allow for a thorough investigation. So in this case, if this killing passes and there is no due process, there is no accountability for the murderers, not just the person that pulled the trigger, but potentially if it was the case that it was ordered from higher up in the command structure as well, for them to be reprimanded too, in order to protect press freedom. This is a huge issue of veteran journalists. And honestly, this should be a moment for people to look back and reflect and also fight for the rights of journalists in the future who are going to be covering these topics, including myself. I go there and I report in the West Bank too, and I have come under fire myself, and I've seen other journalists shot and gassed and abused on in the field. This should stop, and any authorities who are committing these sorts of crimes should be held accountable for it.
You earlier spoke about punishment and what the U.S. can do now. What can be done? Who will punish who? What can the United States do? What kind of punishments can they give if they have to?
Well, this should have an investigation at an international level. We've heard the Palestinian Authority say they've transferred the issue over to the ICC, the International Criminal Court. However, what we're seeing from the United States and the rhetoric that they are pushing at the moment is that they are believing that the Israelis will carry out their own investigation, which means the Israeli military will investigate itself to determine whether someone committed a crime in this instance. And the Americans are putting it on the Israelis to basically sort this issue themselves. But we've seen in the past that Israel does not thoroughly investigate these cases and cannot be trusted. Not only that, Israel lied yesterday. Its foreign ministry put out a tweet on its official Twitter page showing a distorted and edited video, which was later debunked very quickly by B'Tselem, Israel's top human rights organization.
So looking at all of this, will there be an end in sight? Because a lot of people believe that this is a whitewash. If Israel has been accused, and of course they have called for an independent investigation, some people say the investigation, like you have just said, is a whitewash, will not go anywhere. So do you think there will be an end in sight?
I don't believe this crime will be properly punished. I may be wrong. the United States has a long track record of not punishing its allies, including Saudi Arabia, when it dismembered Jamal Khashoggi in its embassy. And the CIA even came out, I believe it was last year, and said that Hamad bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, was in fact involved in it, but they still did nothing. So I don't see any end in sight, unfortunately. That's my prediction, and that is my takeaway from this. However, what this will do is the fact that there will be an investigation of some kind, people will look into this, people will advocate for Shireen and remember her. And I believe that this will provide more motivation for Palestinian journalists on the ground to go and put themselves in harm's way and do the work that Shireen was doing in order to bring the stories out of the West Bank, these vital stories and the truth about what is going on there to the world.
Well, Robert and Lakesh, thank you so much for talking to us and bringing this issue to light. Thank you very much.